All right, so we're live. Just checking to make sure the mic's working. Can we hear? All right. All right, ready to go.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show, live from the news setup. A little bit different from you guys. Usually seen the blank background. We have a little bit different background for you guys here today. A lot to talk about because a lot has happened over the last, I'd say, 12 hours or so, ranging from F1, the Wimbledon draw. We had NBA free agency kickoff about 2.5 hours ago. The Gold Cup's been madness. All that and more to talk about. We're going to start with the Gold Cup. And I realize that I'm more of a fraud than I thought I was going to be because this tournament's been madness and I love it. We're going to start with our friends in Canada because that was the match I was talking about on Monday. Previewing for Tuesday was the match between Canada and Guadalupe. Panama beat Costa Rica in that nightcap on Monday. We talked about that match a little bit while it was beginning. But Canada went out and drew Guadalupe. Really kicks just seeing that Mexico is the only competent pot one team in the whole tournament. And it's great to see that they're the only pot one team to win a match in match day one. Because Costa Rica went out and lost, proving the dominance of that the big four of the United States, Mexico, Canada, and Costa Rica. Only one of them can win a match. And I mean, to be fair, three of them got points. One of them was a hard fought draw for USA drew Jamaica. That makes them look much better than Canada drawing Guadalupe. So that's a fun start. And then Guatemala just beat Cuba to make my predictions look even worse. So both teams that I predicted to get out of this group have a combined 1 point through their first match day. It's been a very interesting tournament. I rewatched the highlights. Canada did not look that dominant, and neither did Cuba. I mean, Cuba lost 1-0. They deserve to lose 1-0. So there's not really much to talk about from either of those matches, other than Canada needs to wake up if they want to do anything in this tournament, just like the United States had to from their draw on Sunday. Because remember, they did not look that great in the first half against the Jamaican national team. They had lost possession too many times. They conceded that penalty that was saved by Matt Turner. Their first goal, like, it's a man marking issue. Just the little things that cost the U.S. that point on Sunday. Same thing with Canada here, but I think later on, because Canada's next match is against Cuba. Actually, that's too far ahead. Their next match is against Guatemala tomorrow. I'm just looking through the schedule. They play Guatemala tomorrow at 9:30 in a match that they need to win. And if Guatemala wins, they're through. And Guatemala's last match, for reference, is on July 4th as they play Guadalupe. So Guatemala's road to the making the next round is not the hardest thing in the world, but Guadalupe may be more competent than we thought. Which, I mean, I don't know what to say. The pot four teams are showing out in this tournament so far. Unfortunately, one of them just got ran off the field as the United States took care of business as predicted. Not by as much as I thought, but double. I said 3-0. They won 6-0. And this is a match that I got to see the end of. So Doherty Mihalovic scored two. Brian Reynolds scored one. Of great, his goal was fantastic. They scored three goals within the first 16 minutes, including all three within the span of about 5-6 minutes. And then we saw Jesus Ferreira get a hat trick in a span of around 34 minutes or so. But the United States dominated the whole match. This is something you were expecting from a team like this. I mean, St. Kitts and Nevis is their debut in the tournament. They haven't really done much. They made it to the second qualifying round in World Cup qualification. They lost that two-legged tie. That's how they didn't make it to the octagonal. And now they just got ran off the field by the United States B squad. But St. Kitts still growing the game. I think they're going to be back in World Cup qualifying, depending on what the format looks like. But yeah, I mean, a good showing from the United States. A big rebound because there is a possibility that St. Kitts comes out firing, but the United States takes care of business 6-0. But a much more impactful result was Jamaica just beating Trinidad. To make this group make even less sense, Jamaica goes out and looks great again. Damari Gray and Leon Bailey nag goals, and Dujon Richards scores a goal in stoppage time to give them more goal difference. So now Group A makes itself look much more competent than we thought going into the tournament. I thought were gonna have a USA and Jamaica runaway, but no, Trinidad just wants to make this interesting. So now this sets up a result where the United States has to beat Trinidad again. Why does this keep happening? I've texted my friends about this before, like the United States with the history of Trinidad. We saw what happened in World Cup qualifying a couple of years ago. Now it's about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, since that infamous loss away to Trinidad. Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. But they get Trinidad on July 2nd at 7 p.m. It's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be on FS1, I believe. And while that's going on, Jamaica can seal its deal as they play St. Kitts. Jamaica will need a United States win or for them to earn points and the United States to draw in order for Jamaica to be through. Trinidad is through on a win. The United States is through based on a win or if St. Kitts finds a way to beat Jamaica, which I don't think is going to happen because Jamaica has, I think, looked like if you could earn a draw against the United States, then beat Trinidad, I think they could possibly be the best team in this group. But they didn't look like. I mean, we'll see how they look against St. Kitts. St. Kitts, when they look good, they're pretty difficult to break down. But I think the hardest team to break down in this group is Trinidad, and Jamaica looked great against Trinidad. So we'll see how the United States pairs up with Trinidad on Sunday. Next matches to talk about, we had the matches from yesterday, and we'll start with Qatar just looking incompetent and drawing Honduras after Honduras got ran off the field by Mexico, questioning how good Qatar really is at the sport of football or soccer. The match was a 1-1 draw. Had, I'm going to butcher this name, Tamim Al Abdullah scoring the 7th minute, nailed it. And then a 96th minute equalizer by Alberth Elise, making it a 1-1 draw. And then there were 2 red cards in the 98th minute. I don't even know how it got to the 98th minute. I didn't watch enough of this match. Wait, hold on, for you. Yeah, I think we might have had someone like run onto the field, but based on the statistics, Honduras looked like the better team. So it's very concerning for Qatar as they now have to go out and just win a match against a Haiti who beat I mean, remember, Qatar lost their opening match. I thought they had to play Haiti. No, I was wrong. They have to go out and play Mexico on Sunday at 9 p.m. I thought they had to play Haiti. No, this group just got so much harder because the Haitian national team went out and lost to Mexico, and they did not look very good in that second half. They looked good in the first half, somewhat, with that low block that we know can beat the Mexican national team. I mean, the low block in CONCACAF actually kind of works. If you play it correctly and you have the personnel to do it, the low block does work. However, it did not work in the second half of the Haitian national team. Henry Martin scores, then there was an own goal, and then Haiti grabs one back, but with Danley Jean Jacques and then Santiago Jimenez, who scores again in this tournament. He grabs the third, sealing the deal and sealing Mexico to be the first team through out of the group stage. Didn't think that was, from my perspective, like that was going to happen, but apparently Qatar doesn't want to throw a good team on the field, and now they're kind of screwed because Mexico, I think, will throw in a mixture of some starters that they would want to throw out on the field. We'll see a mixture of some other players, maybe a little shakeup in the back. We know that they have a very couple solid center backs. I mean, one plays for Ajax, which is in the Netherlands. That means you have to be kind of decent. We do have a result from today actually, as Panama looked really good and beat Martinique, sealing Panama actually now as the second team out of the group stage, possibly. Based on, I mean, their goal difference isn't that great, but a El Salvador and Costa Rica tie, which is what I predicted for this match, would seal Panama through. That match is actually going to kick off I think, fairly soon. It says it starts at 8:30, but we haven't gotten a confirmation of a kickoff yet. So once that game kicks off, I bet that's something you guys should want to turn on if you want to watch a live match. It'll be a very good defensive matchup. Both teams know how to play that low block, but they also have very competent attacks. However, El Salvador looked atrocious against a Martinique side that qualified their way into this. So El Salvador, this is a must-win game for El Salvador because they're not going to beat Panama. I don't think they have the squad right now to beat Panama. So if they can win this match, and they might be able to fetch a draw against Panama, and I think it's very possible because Costa Rica, they need to win this match as well. I mean, if there is a loser, you're out of this tournament, and this is a pot one versus probably a pot two team matchup. If El Salvador is a pot three team, then I don't know how they're. I think they're the best pot three. I think they are very mid-table pot two team in this tournament, and one of the group of death teams could be out already, settling all the drama. So, it'll be very interesting to see how that matchup goes tonight. And like we mentioned earlier, we talked about Canada, Guatemala a little bit, and Cuba and Guadalupe. And then we have on match day 3, we have Panama, El Salvador, and Costa Rica, Martinique. Both games are going to be at 8:30 on July 4th. Make sure you guys enjoy your holiday. And if you want to watch some soccer, there you go. That'll be a lot of fun to watch for the Gold Cup. I'm going to be tuning into that for sure because there's a lot of drama, a lot of intensity, and a lot of red cards. And I love it. But we'll move on from North America as we have some European soccer to talk about. By the way, for those who don't know, I did a video with full preview of like qualifiers and all that fun stuff. Don't worry about it. The Gold Cup, like a full recap alongside the Euros qualifying and the AFCON qualifying. I'm doing all that in a video. That's going to come out, I believe, the week like when the final of the Gold Cup happens. I don't know when the exact date is. I actually can tell you guys right now because I will just search it up real quick. The Gold Cup finals July 16th, so probably around then. I actually might be in my setup in a different setup for that. So that'll be actually I will be. So that will be in my third different setup in 3 weeks. I love it. It's a tongue twister, but it gets results. But yeah, we'll be in a different setup. I'm actually very excited for that setup because it's going to be completely different than this and completely different from the ones you guys are going to see soon. However, we have more stuff to talk about, and we're already 12 minutes in. So let's get down to business. We're going to start off with transfers because there's 2 big transfers that happen on the same day within 2 hours of each other. And we're going to start off with Arsenal as they're going to be paying $105 million for Declan Rice. This is the definition of desperation at its finest. Once Man City entered the race for Declan Rice, you had to have known that Arsenal was going to go full send, full speed ahead. You're going to throw all the money in the world. Essentially what this caused was a delay of the Jurien Timber deal because he's going to likely agree to personal terms within the next 2 days to sign with Arsenal as the third center back. But what this sets now is a likely deal for a big finalization of a long saga with Arsenal needing that central defensive midfielder, City entering the race for about a day, not even, pulling out because Arsenal goes full speed ahead. We'll throw out 105 million. There you go. Light work. 500 million pounds. We'll send Declan Rice to Arsenal. The deal is set to be confirmed very soon. I mean, if you really think he's worth 105 million, one of, if not the biggest, I think one of the biggest Premier League transfers of all time. I had to fact check that, but he is one of the most expensive signings in the Premier League of all time. I mean, I think it's gonna be the most expensive English player, not Premier League players, because I believe the most expensive Premier League player is Enzo Fernandez when he signed with Chelsea in the winter. But I mean, Arsenal wanted firepower. Declan Rice starts that. Jurien Timber would be next. They already have Kai Havertz. So that's 3 big names that you can get yourself within about 2-3 weeks of each other. Pretty good start from Arsenal. But I feel like they're going to be making a couple more moves, maybe adding depth at fullback. I think they could be adding another midfielder or winger. I mean, we've heard a lot of other things. There's been no specific players, but there've been talks of other possible directions that Arsenal can move with transfers. And I for one am very excited about this. I mean, as an Arsenal fan, to see that the club wants to make moves and wants to win the whole thing, Can't be negative about that at all. But Arsenal want to make moves, and Manchester United want to make moves as well. I believe I talked about the connection with Man United and Mason Mount. Well, that deal is going to be confirmed as well. 60 million euros for Chelsea to sign Mason Mount. It's a great deal for Chelsea. From Chelsea's perspective, because you're offloading money, because you've already shipped out. I believe this could be their 6th player out within like 3 weeks of each other. They've lost Koulibaly. I think Ziyech fell apart, but they've lost Edouard Mendy and players like that. They're all going to Saudi Arabia. Now you have an actual thin English transfer as English national team player Mason Mount will head to Manchester United. And for United, this is a great addition to a midfield that needs someone like this. You're going to have Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount, along with Casemiro in that 4-3-3. That's pretty good. I think that could possibly be almost as good of a midfield as Odegaard, Havertz, and would-be Declan Rice. And that's a very good battle between one of the best midfields in the Premier League with Arsenal and United. I mean, I'm very excited to see what that midfield at United looks like. As much as I hate them, they're trying to get that younger core into the team. You have the experience with Casemiro, you have the rising talent of Fernandes, and then you have the youth with Mason Mount, the English national team player. But you have 3 national team players essentially in that midfield. As if only they can have someone replace Harry Maguire, which there was a link with that for briefly, and then someone pulled out of the deal. I don't know, but it's been very interesting as a 5-year contract with a player option will be the contract for Mason Mount. Good for him. I mean, I can't blame people for wanting to leave Chelsea for how much of a mess they are. Because think about it. They add all these players, you disappoint, and they just all leave. Makes sense. Want to play for a better team? Here's 60 million from United. Go play in the Champions League. Simple as that. It's a very weird situation for Chelsea because they're going to be probably even offloading even more players. There's been rumor. I mean, we had Ruben Loftus-Cheek signed with AC Milan and possibly Christian Pulisic, the jersey I'm wearing right now, possibly signing with AC Milan. So a lot more to come for sure. But one more transfer, and it comes from relegated side Leicester City as they lose their captain in James Maddison. He has signed a deal to go to Tottenham Hotspur for around 40 million euros is what I believe the transfer is. This is a phenomenal move. Absolute fleece for Tottenham Hotspur. I did not think I was going to say that. As Madison joins the trophyless Spurs, I love saying that. I cannot lie to you. But Spurs, good move. But however, we said that about Richarlison last year. A lot of people said that Richarlison was going to be a good move. How much they paid Everton? The quick question about James Madison is, what will he look like in that formation under their new manager? This could be a move for a different tactic, but I think with their new manager being hired already and the changes that they've made in the staff, I think this is going to be a tactical move, and I think a very good signing of James Madison for a good value as well. Brings you that leadership quality as well. He was a captain for a good amount of time with Leicester City, but that Leicester City's God squad, I mean, everyone left, and now they're going to be relegated to the championship. Though I do think they'll be a favorite in a very tough championship next year. One other fun note, N'Golo Kante bought a team. Let that sink in for a second. N'Golo Kante, who's playing in the Saudi League, just bought a team. 3rd-tier side, I believe, in France. Good for him. We see all these people trying to buy teams now. Why not invest in a team? I think that's a very smart move by N'Golo Kante. We don't know enough details about it, so that's all I'm going to talk about it then. We still have 4 more things to talk about tonight. We're already 20 minutes in, so let's get down to business. NHL Free Agency kicks off tomorrow. A lot of signings have already happened, as per this article. We have Bo Horvat re-signed with the Islanders after being traded from the Canucks. We had Pasternak re-sign his contract. Dylan Larkin, Joe Pavelski, Andrei Kuzmenko. I believe I said that right. And there's been other players signed as well. But today we saw a huge curveball thrown as the Predators have bought out the contract of Matt Duchene. We saw Kyler Yamamoto get released, Blake Wheeler, the veteran from the Winnipeg Jets, and Mike Riley as well, all joining the list. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of the big free agents according to this list that I have found on sportsnet.ca, so you guys can check it out as well and see how wrong I could possibly be about this. But we're going to start with some of the ones that I personally know about, and that is going to be with Ryan O'Reilly. Now, Ryan O'Reilly, he's just turned 32. His projected his salary cap hit from the previous season was $7.5 million, coming from the St. Louis Blues, originally from the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, they prioritized what St. Louis did was they prioritized signing Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas over its veterans, which I don't hate it. Okay. I don't necessarily hate it going for the youth. It's just that St. Louis needs to decide on a direction and stick with it. And there's teams like them. The Blackhawks did the same thing back in the bubble when they were like kind of competitive. And then they just decided to throw more chips in, and then it actually hurt them. Then they had to trade more pieces. Then they lost Kane, and it just kept spiraling out of control. What St. Louis needs to do is if they want to go young, get young now as fast as possible. Because if they get younger, I think they could possibly make a move in that Central Division. But there's a lot of things that can come. But I just remembered, and I think I just forgot about. He got traded, so that makes sense. With St. Louis getting younger, Toronto doesn't know what they're doing either. Think about that. Toronto, who traded for O'Reilly, I talked about the team that originally had O'Reilly. I thought he was still there, but I forgot he got traded. Toronto now, shocker that they didn't want to go with him either. So, Ryan O'Reilly did not discuss an extension. Dubas got sacked for I don't know why. I think a possible destination for him would be Pittsburgh if he wants to go back with Dubas. I don't think that's really going to happen. I think his market will be very open. I bet there's a lot of teams that really desire a center, but I'm very intrigued. I think Boston could be a target as well if his value goes down. I think Boston could be a target to watch out for sure. They're trying to get. There's gonna be some changes. That who knows what happens with Krejci, Bergeron, other pieces of that team. I think Boston could possibly be a location for Ryan O'Reilly, depending on what direction they want to go. Ryan O'Reilly, I think, could be a very interesting fit I think he's probably one of the best centers available for sure. I'm just very interested. I think that's a possible direction. I think he could possibly go back to Buffalo. Who knows? Who knows? But we're going to go to our next one. This is my personal favorite because I think he's a little bit underrated, but some people think he's different. Tyler Bertuzzi of Detroit. Now, I think he leaves. I think everyone believes he's going to leave. And I think he could make it currently $4.75 million. I think he's going to go to the sevens range. I think that's very possible. This is the part of the free agency where I think he's going to possibly be a day one free agent and sign for a boatload of money. That's just the way day one free agencies are. Tyler Bertuzzi, I think it's a very intriguing option on the wing. Steve Yzerman committed to Dylan Larkin, who re-signed his contract, but he cut his centerman's good pal Bertuzzi at the deadline. But I mean, he originally played for Detroit, and then now he was Detroit lost him. Now he was at Boston. If he wants to stay at Boston, I don't know what direction Boston can go. Do you go younger or do you go older? And they need to decide that. They've probably decided on that already. But Tyler Bertuzzi, remember, he played for the Red Wings. Yzerman couldn't commit to his future. He gets traded to Boston. Now with Boston, I think he could stay, but I don't think he does. I think there's a lot of teams that will be desiring a wing in free agency, possibly going younger. I mean, if the Rangers can't give Vladimir Tarasenko back, I think the Rangers could be possibly in play for an underrated Tyler Bertuzzi for sure. Why not? I mean, what could possibly go wrong with wanting to get younger for a guy who's 28? What could possibly go wrong? I mean, unless you want to really lock up Lafreniere. I mean, if you're going to overpay Lafreniere, do it now and just settle the dust. Make your lives easy. But I think both New York teams could possibly be in play. I mean, we've heard Philadelphia and Pittsburgh want to be aggressive. I think Pittsburgh could be a destination as well. If you want to go out west, I mean, Vegas could look enticing. I mean, there's other teams out west for sure that could look very enticing for a guy like a Tyler Bertuzzi. But I think his market's going to be very open. Florida could possibly be in the mix as well. Just think of teams that would possibly need a wing. But everyone knows that the kind of the asking price could be is about $5 million. This says that Toronto could possibly be looking into him. I think that's a big possibility as well. Two more to talk about to you today, and that's gonna be first one, and it's gonna be two New York Rangers. The first one is Patrick Kane. Now, Patrick Kane, I do not believe stays as a Ranger. I mean, he had an okay stint with them. I think that's how I'm gonna mark it. It's gonna be okay. His market, I think, is gonna be very not as big as people think it would be. I do think he signs within 2 days because just a big name guy. I think a 1 or 2 year deal, if you really want to go that direction. Boston, I think, will be in play. I think Florida could be in play for this if you want to move down south. Tampa Bay, if they want to get older on the wings. If you want to go out west, I think a team that could possibly be in play for him would be Vegas. That would make a lot of sense if you want to go all just. I call it the Corey Perry route and just go to teams like if you can't beat them, join them. Like if you can't, if you want to go to the number one team, do it now. But I don't think they go back to back cups. I think Colorado could be an enticing option. If we want to look at this, I thought he could possibly be going to Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's a team on the rise as well. A little bit of veteran leadership. The guy is from the Buffalo area. I think that could be the other destination, but a very wide range of options for Patrick Kane, somewhat. But I don't think boatload of teams would be like, yes, let's go get 3 years of Patrick Kane for 7.5 million AAV if he really wants that. Because remember, his last season of the contract, he was around 10 million. So it's a very interesting option. And the final one is one of my personal favorite players from a couple of years ago when he was really elite with the Blues. That's Vladimir Tarasenko. Now, Vladimir Tarasenko was traded to the Rangers, and I think he was pretty solid. But Friedman on 32 TP wonders if the Blackhawks could sign Tarasenko to play with Bedard. That's an interesting option. I don't think he would do that. I mean, the Connor Bedard option, I just want to talk about this. Connor Bedard, who, for those who don't know, was the first pick of the NHL draft. He signed with the Blackhawks. And he's a very intriguing prospect. I think some are dubbing him one of the best center prospects we've seen in a long time for his dazzling talents in from where he was playing. He's really young. He's 17. He's really good. It's an enticing option, but if you're Vladimir Tarasenko, you've already won a cup. Why wouldn't you want to win another one? Why wouldn't you want to play on a team with Matthew Tkachuk in Florida, for example? Why wouldn't you want to play with Steven Stamkos, Tampa Bay? Why wouldn't you want to go to Carolina, where they can need some wings as well? Why wouldn't you want to go maybe a little more west? Maybe you want to go back to St. Louis. Maybe you want to play for the Avalanche. Maybe you want to play for the young. If you want to play for a young starting team, play for the dang Kraken at this point. I think Tarasenko's market will be bigger than Kane's. Just saying. There's a lot of intriguing options. I can't wait for it all to unfold. We're going to move on as I'm going to go more in depth with break down some of the signings on Monday. I'll be back here in this room. So you guys make sure you guys turn on post notifications and subscribe so you don't miss what's going on. But we have some NBA news, of course, because free agency started 3 hours ago now from when this video it's 3 hours ago from when this video started. And we're going to begin with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, the Dallas Mavericks are in a very interesting situation with Kyrie Irving. And based on what I've heard, let me make sure for confirmation from earlier today, not that long ago. Yep. Kyrie Irving has agreed to a 3-year extension with $126 million to stay in Dallas. This doesn't make no sense, but it doesn't make a lot of sense because Dallas is going to be playing a very competitive Western Conference. Just name a couple of teams off. Denver, Phoenix, the Lakers possibly will probably be in that mix for the top. If they play it right, the Sacramento Kings will be back. The Pelicans were at the top at one point during the season. You'll have the Clippers possibly be in the mix if they're fully healthy, unless they implode if they want to blow it all up again. Think about it, that's 6 teams already. I don't think Dallas is better, maybe better than New Orleans, than those 6 teams. So 5, they're worse. They're the 6th best team in the West. Do you think a 2-star lineup with 2 guards will beat these teams in the West? I don't think so. So it's a very interesting move. Kyrie wants to win now. He probably went for the money in this one. He's making $42 million AAV, so that's pretty good. A guy like him went for the money. You can't hate that type of move. It's just a very confusing a little bit type of move. I mean, wherever Kyrie's gone, other than Cleveland, it hasn't worked very well for him. Boston didn't work out well. Brooklyn. Now Dallas you didn't make the play-in round with Luka Doncic by your side. Do I need to say any more? It's confusing. I'm interested to see what Dallas does in free agency, that's for sure. And another big move today, and this happened, if you saw my Instagram story, follow me on Instagram, by the way. We had the very interesting move of Draymond Green just re-signing with the Warriors within 5 minutes. Now, we expected this to happen. Hold on, we just maybe got some breaking news. Ooh, we just did get some breaking news. So I'll talk about that in a second. But a very interesting move with Draymond Green, somewhat. He resigns, sticks with the Warriors project, even though they're kind of fading away. I think one day we'll see the end of Clay, Steph, and Draymond at one point. But we do have somewhat of breaking news. That's Fred VanVleet, probably one of the biggest name guards. He's going to the Houston Rockets. What a move this is for the Rockets. You have Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet with like a prospect in Cam Whitmore, one of the Thompson brothers. You have Jabari Smith. They actually have a now decent looking core. Good job, Houston. You didn't mess it up. The Rockets land the ex-Raptors All-Star in this prime at 29 years old. He is the first max player free agency as he signs the 3-year, $130 million contract. For those who are wondering, that's like, I don't know. Let's do some math because I don't even know. It's 43.3 million AAV. It's a big time move. And yeah, I mean, I was not expecting all this to happen this early. Like, I was expecting, like, oh yeah, today we'll do the NBA free agency preview, and then on Monday I'll be able to break down everything. No, that didn't happen. Nope, everything's happening right now. Big time move. This is the largest, according to the source. This is the largest contract for an undrafted player in NBA history, surpassing his own previous record. And then before that, it was Duncan Robinson. So yeah, big time move for Fred VanVleet. Good for him. He deserves it. Toronto, who knows what they're doing? Yeah, big time move with Fred VanVleet. Knicks didn't have the money. Freddie goes to the Rockets. Good for them. Knicks kind of were possibly in the mix, but very good move for the Houston Rockets. And we'll look if we have anything else to talk about. Shout out to I believe he's a former St. John's player, Julian Champagnie. He signed with the Spurs today. Bruce Brown. Remember when Mike Malone said Bruce Brown was coming back? Yeah, he's not going back. He is going to the Pacers, just to make one other notable move. One I thought I might go under the radar in a couple of weeks is Max Strus going to Cleveland. They needed a shooter, possibly a little bit overpriced, but I think Max Strus is just what Cleveland needs. I think it's one of those moves where screw how much we have to pay for him. We have a need. Let's go get the need right away. Make it easy for themselves. And I think this is a great move to go get Max Strus, get the job done, solidify the number 2 spot in the lineup. You'll maybe move Mitchell to the 3. That's very possible to go with a lineup of Garland, Strus, and Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley at the 5, and whoever you want to run at the 4. It's pretty good. Oh, and Evan Mobley at the 4, Jared Allen at the 5, possibly. It's a pretty good lineup. I think that would probably be one of the top 5 lineups in the East entering the season. Pretty good. Not much else that I think of that's notable has happened. We're at over $1.4 billion in new deals so far in free agency, and it's been 3 hours. Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely madness. We'll go over all the deals more in depth on Monday, but it's time now for the next topic. We have, unless I have another deal for you guys, I don't think I do. Just making sure about this. Yeah, I got nothing. So we'll move on. We got a little tennis to talk to you guys about today. Wimbledon begins on Monday. I'm going to be watching it, that's for sure. In the morning. It starts at 6 in the morning. You guys can watch it all the way until 5 p.m. each of the first 2 days. First round of these tournaments is absolutely electric, and anything can happen, and I love it. Looking at the first, we'll begin with the men's draw, and I'll load up the women's draw as well to tell you some players I think can make it very far in this tournament. As we'll go over the men's draw first. And the men's draw is a lot of fun in one particular section. As this ad will get out of the way. And we see the return of one of my underdogs for the tournament. I'm calling him an underdog because it's his first tournament back, but I think he could possibly be a third round exit, and that is Nick Kyrgios. I love Nick Kyrgios. I love his style of play. He's massive, the big serve, big forehand. He can move across the court. He's coming off an injury, so I'm very interested to see how he comes back from the injury. But the Wimbledon finalist from last year, very intrigued to see how he does. He goes up against David Goffin of Germany in the first round. He's a wild card. If I could find his part in the brackets, the number he plays on Monday. So the times of the matches have not come out yet. But yeah, Nick Kyrgios, it's David. It's actually Belgium. Excuse me for Goffin. He will play then the winner of. Let me find it right. The winner of Sebastian Baez of Argentina and Tomas Barrios Vera. So I back Kyrgios in both of those matches. Unfortunately for him, he has to play Rublev, who has owned him in the past. Other on the smaller stages, he's beaten him once on the big stage. He's beaten him, I believe that was the Australian Open. I could be wrong about that. So it'd be very interesting to see how Kyrgios goes up against Rublev. I think Rublev would possibly wipe the floor with him because of the injury. But it's a very interesting part of the draw. One of my favorites for this tournament, if I could find him, was Casper Ruud, and there is Casper Ruud. He is in the next part of one stage higher in the draw. He opens up against qualifier Laurent Locoli of France. He has, I think, there's one person I think out of the first 2 matches that could beat him. That's Liam Brody. I think he could possibly beat him. But there's a possibility where Casper Ruud and Shapovalov could go up against each other. And I think that would possibly be one of the best third round matchups. Will be Denis Shapovalov of Canada facing off against Casper Ruud of Norway. I think that'd be a very fun match to watch out for sure. That's a possibly big third round tie. But my favorite, I mean, Yannick Sinner has been solid in the grass before. He goes up against Juan Manuel Cerundolo of Argentina. His biggest opponent heading forward would be Daniel Evans, who I think could possibly make a run for how big home court advantages in these majors. I mean, back in the days when France was really good at tennis, the crowds there were electric. Australia, they're great. The United States, U.S. Open now has gotten much more popular in recent years. In Wimbledon, when Andy Murray was winning championships, this is the type of atmosphere we're going to see. Daniel Evans opens up against Quintin. I'm going to butcher this. Halys? Let me know if I said that right. Of France.
I think an underrated player that could maybe beat Sinner would be Diego Schwartzman, though he's been in a terrible run of form recently. He's got ran off the court at the French Open. Andy Murray opens up against Ryan Peniston. I bet that's going to be a center court matchup for sure. But looking through, we're going to go back down the draw in a second. But one player that I think is underrated on grass, and I think is probably the best U.S. player other than Tiafoe for this, is Tommy Paul. Now, I've heard, if you don't know who Tommy Paul is, I found out about him when he's playing. He's really good at the hard courts. He's okay in the dirt, and he's apparently solid in the grass. I do think this could possibly be his worst surface. I'm very interested to see because Tommy Paul opens up with a qualifier, and they could possibly be playing a qualifier again. So I think Tommy Paul, you shouldn't be shocked if he gets into the third round. He would then go up. The best player he could face is Francisco Cerundolo. There's multiple Cerundolos. That's really throwing me off. But I believe, oh no, I'm wrong. Excuse me. He would play Cam Norrie in the third round. That would be another fun matchup. Tommy Paul and Cam Norrie, two guys with a phenomenal forehand and a big serve. I actually would love to watch that match. As we mentioned, we've talked about Tiafoe. He plays Yibling Wu of China. His biggest matchup would be Dimitrov, who I think he would kill. I think he would beat up Dimitrov. But the way he's been playing recently, he has been playing very hot as of late, but you're talking about long term, I think I would back Tiafoe. And then, of course, I can't go about this without talking about the two big names. But there's one other name that I think can really make some noise and possibly win the whole thing. I'm gonna talk about three people I'm gonna pick to win. But of course, you can't this whole thing without forgetting to mention Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic. Novak Djokovic is the 2 seed. His hardest opponent that he could possibly be facing within the first 4 rounds, I think, would be Hercaraz. I think Hercaraz. Hercaraz, I think, in the bottom part of the draw is the most competitive person that Djokovic should face until the final. I really have been for a couple of months now. I've been a big fan of Herbert Hercaraz. He's been injured a little bit. He's fallen off a tiny bit, but he was a former top 10 world player. He's currently ranked number 17. I think he can make some big noise. Of course, the hardest player you play would be Musetti, and I'm already prepared for another disappointment from Oguru Aliasime. I don't believe he's made past the third round in a major in like a year and a half. So I don't think you see much of a change from Oguru Aliasime. But you see the return, of course, the big names like a Stan Wawrinka. But Novak and Herbert Hercaraz could be a matchup to watch for in the future. Time now for my predictions of who's going to win this thing. I'm going to tell you two big names and one underrated name to watch out for. One sleeper for the tournament, kind of like how I did with the U.S. Open, so for the golf tournament. My first one, very unoriginal. I'm going to go with Novak Djokovic. He's beaten Alcaraz before. I think Alcaraz could possibly be dethroned by one of these guys, but I think Novak continues his incredible run of form at Wimbledon. I think he goes down and wins it again. I think that's the first big name you can watch out for. I'm not going to name Alcaraz as my other one because if I can find him, I think another player that could possibly win this, and I think the player that will dethrone Alcaraz is Holger Rune. Yes, I'm not saying Medvedev. I am going with Holger Rune, the number 6 seed, who opens up against wildcard George Lofhagen of Britain. It'll be kind of a home court thing for Lofhagen, but I think Holger Rune would be my pick for that match. I think Holger Rune could possibly dethrone Alcaraz. So that'll be the person I think that could dethrone Alcaraz. Medvedev could probably do it as well, but I would back Holger Rune for sure. And my sleeper is going to be, if I can find him. Yeah, it's not really a sleeper, but I'll actually name two. Players I think that could possibly go far. I'm going to go Herbert Hercaraz. It's the 17th seed. I'm going to call him a little bit of a sleeper because of how top-heavy tennis is. Herbert Hercaraz is going to be my name for the underrated one. I think he's Wimbledon quarterfinal, Wimbledon semifinal quality. So I think he could possibly be the one. And then Nick Kyrgios would be the other one. But The player I gotta find him first. Where is he? Because his father used to be good on grass. And there he is, the 22 seed. I think he can make some noise. And that is Sebastian Korda. Now, Sebastian Korda's family, his sister, I believe it's his sister, is an LPGA major champion. The dad's won multiple majors in tennis. I think he could possibly make some noise here at Wimbledon. Everyone wearing all white. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wimbledon on the men's side is going to be a ton of fun. But it's now time to see if the women's bracket's going to load. And it is the women's bracket will load. So, of course, you can't go about the women's side without naming Iga Swiatek, who looks unstoppable to some. Owns Jabeur is the other one, if I can find Jabeur. I don't know what seed she is. So we have Sabalenka, who's the number 2 seed. We have Elena Rybakina of Kazakhstan. Shout out to Kazakhstan for no reason at all. There you go. We have someone named the street that I'm on. That's funny. We also have Petra Kvitova, who has been good at this tournament before. And then the 6th seed, who I think could really make some noise, is Ons Jabeur of Tunisia. I believe she's won this tournament before. She's a very tough side of the grow up with Pliskova and Kalininia. I think that's how you say it. Have been are good seeded players. You have Beatriz Haddad Maya. I think that's how you say that. Of Brazil. You have Ostapenko, excuse me. Sakari, I think, is going to be a dark horse. Somewhat of, because how top heavy it is, Sakari, I think, can really make some moves. So don't forget the back of Sakari. I don't know what seed Coco Gauff is. That's a good question. She might be in the top F. Unranked player to watch out for, Sloane Stevens, who's won a U.S. Open. That'll be a fun one to watch out for, of course, with Sloane Stevens. There it is. So 2 U.S. women to watch out for. So if you know anything about football, you know about the Pagulas and how incompetent they are. Well, they have a daughter. I believe it's their daughter named Jessica Pagula, who's very good. I believe she's won a couple of singles titles before. She's number 4 seed. She's very good, and she's in the same top 64 with Goff. Now, Coco Goff would have to unfortunately probably play Swiatek at one point. And then Pagula's toughest test would be Caroline Garcia. But so I think my picks to win it are going to be Swiatek, of course. Swiatek, Jabeur are my 2 top heavy players. And then my sleepers to win, I'm going to pick 2 of them. I'm going to go with Sloane Stevens. And I got to find the other one. Actually, no, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to go with Jabeur and Sakari. So 2 bottom half players dethrone Swiatek. So Sakari and Jabeur. And then I'm going to go with Sloane Stevens. And I don't know where the other one is. Am I this blind? Should I think it's something totally random, like who's formerly see that. I don't know. I'm not the biggest most knowledge of women's tennis. So yeah, we'll just go with 1 because I don't have the most knowledge about it, and I don't want to be completely wrong. We'll just go with Sloane Stevens. I think it's Venus Williams is also in it, facing wild card Elena Civitolina. Totally butchered that, but we ride with it for sure. Danielle Collins, I think, is the another American to watch out for, of course. But should be a lot of fun. So just to say one more time, my men's side, I'm going with, I believe it was Novak Djokovic. And I named some other players in there, of course. I'll just look at it one more time. We had Novak, and then from the other part, we had, was it Holger Rune? Yeah, it was Holger Rune who would dethrone the other one. And then I named you some other underrated players. And on the women's side, my big 2 winners would be Jabeur and Sakari. And of course, we've named you some underrated players like Sloane Stevens. We named you Herbert Herkerath. So there's been a lot of other players who could really make their noise. And I'm hoping for that multiple United States men's or women's players make it through in this tournament. Pretty far, hopefully. It's time for the final segment of the night. It's a very long episode today. Like I said, I told you this was going to be a long episode. And we have Formula One to talk about. Now, F1, we had qualifying today. No, it's not tomorrow. It's today. It was this morning. And we have Verstappen get pole again, followed by two Ferraris, which good for them. I mean, they've figured it out. It's too late for them, really, for the championship. But second place may not be out of the reach after all, because if you look at the standings, at the team standings so far, Ferrari are only 40. I can do math. 45 points off of Mercedes, who are in second. So I think if Mercedes implodes a little bit, Maston implodes a little bit, maybe Ferrari can do something. But it's a very demanding track here. Leclerc is going to start second, but Sainz, Lando Norris qualifies well here again. He's in fourth. Then Hamilton, Stroll, Alonso, Nico Hulkenberg, Gasly, and Albon complete the top 10. And then you have the two disappointments in qualifying again. I just don't know how this keeps happening. George Russell is in P11, and then Perez, this is P15. Sure. I mean, at this point, what the heck do you do with him? Apparently, his time was 2:06, so something must have happened in qualifying. I wasn't able to watch qualifying this morning, but wow, very big concern because we heard Helmut Marko was changing AlphaTauri to another team name, possibly creating the possible changes of both drivers, but questioning the future. The future of Nick DeVries, I think, is certain that he's probably may not come back. Yuki Tsunoda, I don't know what you do with him. I think he could possibly be going to another seat as well. But I think there's a question, and I just want to touch on this real quick, of potential future driver moves. So I'm just going to give you some possibilities. Just as an example, we'll do this more mid-season as well. I'll probably say the same predictions in mid-season. But I think some changes that can happen. We'll see Daniel Ricciardo come back. And I see him teaming up with Liam Lawson. Now, I've been a big fan of Liam Lawson. He's in one of the Red Bull Academy drivers. They have Owasu. It's Owasu or Owasu. I don't exactly remember. He's a Japanese driver in F2 right now. He's top 3 in the F2 championship, for those who don't know. And Liam Lawson as well is a very electric driver as well. He's I believe, one of the reserve drivers for Red Bull this year. I think he's a young driver. He looks very good. I think he could possibly fit the AlphaTauri seat with Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, what better way to bring Daniel back than to possibly a sister team, but just to give him back in the car. Who knows? Maybe he goes to Red Bull next year, replaces Perez for being the disappointment. I mean, it'd be a lot of fun to see Daniel back in a very competitive car, and I think he would be very competitive in a Red Bull car. Probably not the first few races next year, but if they were to make the move, I think that would be the possibility of for sure of seeing Daniel possibly really challenge Max if they wanted to put him in that Red Bull next year. Next year for sure. And the other one that I was thinking of was Logan Sargent. Now, you love having to see an American driver in the mix, but he's been a little bit disappointing, probably going to the Latifi status since Albon's qualifying well. Sargent really hasn't. I think a driver that could possibly make the change for him would be Mick Schumacher. Now, Mick Schumacher currently is the reserve driver at Mercedes. I think keeping the Mercedes theme would be the move here for sure. If they want to go younger, they have a million reserve drivers, so I think that could possibly be a move as well. There's a million people that can possibly move this year, so a lot of drivers I think could possibly be making a move this year. But we have more of that to talk about closer towards the end of the season. But back to the race. So the format for tomorrow, there's another qualifying. If you want to watch it in the States, just for everyone who watches this thing, that's 6 in the morning tomorrow. I don't think and it's for the sprint race tomorrow, which is a shortened race. So there's a different points format. It used to be, so by the way, the sprint qualifying is called the sprint shootout, from what I understand it as. And then The sprint is just more points. So the sprint race, if you win, you get 8 points. Then I believe it's 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's not the top 10, but like the top 8 or so get points. I think tomorrow we're going to see a lot of, I mean, they're going to have to use, they got more tires allocated, but maybe they see how much the softs wear out at this track. But you're going to see a lot of aggressiveness, and a lot. Big question will be how fast does it take for Max Verstappen to lap everyone? And it's very possible they laps multiple cars. For how short Red Bull Ring is, and how draining it is, like physically, I think it's very possible that Max Verstappen does lap multiple cars in the sprint tomorrow. In the race, it's most likely going to happen. It happened last year, but last year we saw some very good fights in this race. You saw, I think it was like a 5 cars mix for like P8 to P13. And this is a fun fact that where I believe Mick Schumacher got his first points. So it's like one of the, like, this is where we really saw him shine. Because remember the Haas cars, the first year, the Haas car was trash. Last year it was kind of competitive. I mean, Kevin Magnussen got a Mickey Mouse pole position, but no, it's really gonna be a wait and see moment for, I mean, for the race. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? It's F1. Other than Max winning, who else wants to really make a name for themselves in the sprint or in the race? We've talked so much today. We've had so many topics talked about, but unfortunately, that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching live on the stream, if you're watching in the future, we'll return on Monday for a weekend recap for recapping what happened on the Gold Cup from Sunday, Wimbledon update from Monday. We'll have more NBA and NHL free agency and more possibly to talk about. But for now, I'm Robbie Basel. I'll see you guys Monday night.